Hello, everybody. I want to say God bless you to start off. I just wanted to get on here and just do a really small reflection. And so I was praying about 2 days ago, and nothing really came from it. But I was trying to talk to God. I'm like, God, I want to speak to you more. Can you help me out? Can you give me ideas? And the funny thing is, God's always talking if you have an ear to hear and eyes to see. He's always sending you little messages and he's always trying to get your attention. But being the creative God that he is, he doesn't just try to do something boring. He always tries to switch it up on you. And that helps you really grow in your personal relationship with God. It keeps things interesting and it's kind of funny. But so, like I said, I'm trying to give you a small reflection because for those of you that just were up here in Wisconsin and actually pretty much anywhere not the South, we had a pretty nasty snowstorm that just happened, right? And I just think it's quite interesting, right? Because I was pretty frustrated. This is something that's literally happened to pretty much anybody that has to shovel their own snow. When you work really hard on shoveling your driveway and just getting everything cleaned up, and then the city plows come by at some random time and just block you right in. Like they just completely shovel you in, and they usually the stuff on the street is a little bit more melted if it's had salt on it before. So when they pile on that stuff, it's a lot more slushy. It's a lot heavier. It's got chunks of ice on it, right? So it's pretty brutal. Well, I mean, this one, it was pretty bad. I ended up getting like literally, it was like 4 feet high or more of snow on my driveway, in the entrance, and I was really mad about that. And so I started there, and here's really the reflection that I got from it. I was wondering to myself, what can I do? How can I, attack this situation? Because I felt I'm being a little bit dramatic, but it was a little bit annoying. Like, what's the word I'm looking for? I don't want to say hopeless, but I'm like, man, I don't even know where to start. So many times, this happens to us in life where, we're trying to work on something, we're trying to fix a problem in our life, and out of nowhere, it feels like something just comes in and just dumps a huge problem on you. It dumps another situation that you weren't prepared for, that you really weren't, you already had other stuff to do anyways, and then out of nowhere, now you got another problem to deal with, right? So here's a little reflection that I feel like kind of God gave me. I wasn't just trying to sit there and trying to be slick and come up with something. I was just shoveling, and it felt like, well, why don't you just do this, and why don't you do this, and how about this? And I'm like, it's like God gave me the answers. It was quite interesting. So to start off, once again, I want to thank you for listening in to this this little reflection. Right, this should take like 10 minutes, give or take, right? I wanted to thank you, and I really hope that this blesses you, right? This isn't going to be like a regular Bible teaching. It's just going to be like a everyday, how to just go about solving some of your problems in your life, because I think it'll really help you out. So, step number one is you have to assess the damage, right? So, and preferably if you can write these down, right? Even like a little napkin or something. It isn't going to be a lot of information, but maybe it'll help you remember it. And the video is going to be pretty short, so you can rewatch it as well. But, if you can take some notes, it'd be pretty great for you to access in the future. So, once again, step number one really is assess the damage. How do you know how bad your problem is, right? Sometimes we see a problem and we're just completely overwhelmed, and and especially if you were just working on something and in that same area it just got destroyed. How do you go about it? And many times a problem looks worse than it really is. There's times that you have a really severe problem, right? We're not going to ever downplay that. But even in most cases, the problem's not quite as bad. It could be pretty bad, but it's not quite as bad as originally seemed. So make sure that you assess the situation, look at it, and determine what the problem is. Sometimes you'll feel something, and we'll call that a symptom, right? You're feeling a symptom of something, but is that really the problem, or is that the symptom? When you're looking at it, what's the problem? What is actually the cause of everything, right? So, for example, the symptom is my driveway is blocked. But what was the actual root of the cause? Well, it's the weather. My driveway would have never actually been blocked unless it had snowed and then the plows came by, right? So in reality, the blocked driveway wasn't really the problem. In my case, it's preventing me from doing things, right? That's a symptom that I'm hurting, and it's doing something in my life. But in reality, it's just a symptom. The real problem is it snowed. Now, for me, I actually like the snow. I actually don't even mind shoveling. I like this weather. But in real life, what happens when you're looking at a problem in your life and you're focused on something and you're like, this has got to be the problem? Well, maybe it's not. Like, for example, let's say you're having trouble budgeting or in your finances, or I don't know, whatever area you're hurting. Is the lack of money really the problem? Well, many times we think, well, yes, if I had more money, I would have less problems. And in some cases, that could be true. But what if you're just really bad at budgeting? What if you, even though you're not making that much money, what if you could still be okay with that amount if you were a little bit more wise in spending it? What if, what if you want different relationships with people and you feel like you don't have that many relationships or whatever, but that's not really the problem, is how you're handling the relationships, right? And you can, make a list of whatever's personal to you. Actually, those are two that are personal to me, right? I feel like my finances could be better, and they're pretty decent. I'm not gonna complain. I'm pretty blessed, and God's been really good to me. He's been faithful, but it could be better. And I acknowledge, right, even in this video, it's all about transparency here. I could have done a better job. I really could have, and so I think assessing the situation, you have to be honest. And just to move on, right? I don't want to take up too much time. Assess the situation. Just be honest with yourself. I mean, whether you're honest to yourself or not, the problem is the same, right? You might as well be honest, and that way you can at least make progress. If you still try to be in denial or blame things, blame other people, blame other situations, yeah, you can do that. You'll feel better about yourself, but then the problem's the same, and then it keeps happening, and you don't know why because you keep tricking yourself into thinking why it's happening, okay? So then next is, once you've assessed the damage, I assessed it, and the damage is there's a ton of snow everywhere blocking my driveway. Well, you have to mark boundaries, right? So, there's snow on the entire street. There's snow everywhere. Everybody's yard, all the neighbors, everybody. So you have to mark boundaries. How far am I willing to go to fix this problem? How much do I actually need to fix? Just because there's a lot of problems doesn't mean you actually have to fix everything. What do you actually need to attack to get the problem solved? Well, what's my main problem? I'm trying to get out of the house. I'm trying to drive, but my driveway's blocked. Do I have to get rid of the entire snow in all the U.S.? Well, no. What about in all of Wisconsin? No. What about my entire block? No. Where do I need to get the snow? Right here, my driveway. If I can just clear the driveway, it'll let me do what I have to do. And then when I come back, I am able to check what else I can do, right? That's a different step, but we'll come back to that. But right now, what do you actually have to fix? For example, you have a problem, just going with the two earlier problems I mentioned. You have a bill that's due, right? So you're freaking out because, you have debt. You're freaking out because you have these things. And then you're like, but how much of a problem do I actually have right now? In this moment in time, right now, how much of a problem do I actually have? Well, it turned out you don't have that much of a problem. Maybe you just only need enough money to pay one bill that's overdue, right? Even though the other bills are coming up and you need more money for them, that's fine. That's a different problem for a different day, right? Or immediately right now, you probably only need this much to pay this one bill off. Or if you have several bills, which one's critical? Say like utilities or something. This is a problem that's common for people, right? Where they get a little bit behind on utilities or rent, and you have all these other problems. And I'm not going to pretend like, maybe you're wallowing in this debt or whatever. What do you need to keep yourself going one more day? What do you do to get one more day, right? So I'm marking my boundaries. If I can just fix this, at least it'll buy me some time to figure something else out for everything else. And that's fine. Sometimes if you're stuck in a situation that's got you really hurting, that's okay. That is perfectly fine. You can do that. Just buy yourself more time until you can figure something else out for some of the other problems, right? So in this case, I decided I just need to unblock my driveway, and this will buy me time to do whatever I need to do, and then I can come back. So, once again, just going off my notes here, you have to ask yourself a couple questions, right? Can I put this off? No, I can put off most of this, but I can't put off clearing the driveway because it's catastrophic problem. I can't get past it no matter what I do. I have to Figure it out right now. Okay, so do that. What can I put this off? No. Next question. How much do I need to fix right now? Which goes with what I was telling you, right? Well, technically, if I'm calm about the situation and I'm not panicking, I just need to fix this much. Then that's your boundary. Mark your limits. And then will doing more help? Well, if you're late for work or you really need to be somewhere, and let's say you need to shovel, there's tons of snow in your backyard, there's tons of snow everywhere, there's tons of problems, right? How much do you actually need to fix to get going? Well, it turned out for me, I had already shoveled most of my driveway. I just needed the entrance unblocked, right? So then you ask yourself, will doing more actually provide any benefit? Many times we get so caught up in trying to fix all these tiny little details, and they don't actually add any functional or practical value. They don't do anything. They make you feel good because you feel like you accomplished something, but then you look at it and it didn't actually do anything. So don't get caught up in the details to the point where you're doing kind of crazy stuff and it's not doing anything for you. It's not making your life any better. You're trying to solve all these little problems. Maybe they're even annoyances, but it's not doing anything. It's not, can you live? You'll be fine. Do you have more pressing matters? Yeah. So then don't waste your time. You can get to those later when you have time or when once everything else has been cleared out. Okay. So the next one, start from the top or from the surface. And I was standing there, right? And I was looking at this giant mountain of ice and snow. And I'm like, okay, I marked my boundaries. I know how big my driveway is, how wide. I only need to shovel technically from here to here. Because what happened was there was already mounds of snow on the sidewalk. And the plow just merged everything together. And it just made a continuous wall. So I'm like, so it looked way more imposing than it really was. You know, a driveway for the most part isn't even that wide, but because I was looking at this giant nonstop, mountain of snow that just kept going from every direction, well, I'm like, I freaked out a little bit, and then I'm like, wait, I marked my boundaries. It's actually not that much, okay? So what can you do? Many times we want to go after the big stuff, the hard stuff, right? You want to go in deep to the bigger problems, but from a strategic standpoint, that's a terrible idea. But if you start going after the big things, by the time you get done with it, you're not going to have any energy left to take care of the little things. You're going to be worn out, exhausted, lack of focus. It's going to be terrible. And on top of that, then you're going to start getting annoyed by all the little stuff as you're trying to do the big stuff and you feel like you're not making any progress, right? So you're getting overwhelmed. It's the same amount, but just by simply switching up your strategy, you can make it feel like it's not as bad, right? A lot of times, like I was telling you, the problems aren't as big as you think they are. So what do I do, right? So first thing you gotta do is you gotta start. Once you start moving, you start gaining momentum, and it becomes a little bit easier. Now, you always want to start from your problems from the edges or the surface, right? And it really depends on what issue you're working with, and we're just talking about some general information here, right? What ends up happening is when you take care of the little things, after you take care of all the little things, you can really focus on the big things or the primary things, right? Now, if you only have one big problem, okay, figure out, can I break this down into little steps, right? Which is what I ended up doing, and I'll tell a little bit more in a second. And then once you remove all the little annoyances, if there's little things you can take care of ahead of time, the big things don't feel so bad, right? It actually feels smaller because you're dealing with less problems at one time, right? When you're juggling problems, it can get really exhausting mentally and it feels like you're kind of in a bad place. So if you start taking care of little things, you start gaining, you start getting a psychological advantage, a emotional advantage where you start to feel, okay, I'm making progress. Wow, my work isn't in vain. I feel like I'm doing something. I'm accomplishing something. I'm moving forward, making progress. And that's what generates momentum, right? Now, to the next step is move systematically and start now. So basically, you have to just come up with a plan. Now, depending on how complex your problem is, depends on how complex your plan needs to be. Now, in my case, I just had a ton of snow in my driveway. All I have is a shovel. I'm pretty under-equipped for something like this, but at the same time, it's not really that big of a deal, right? So the plan can be simple. So in this case, having a mountain, what did I do? What was my plan? Okay, so I know that I had to start from the surface. No matter how you do it, you can't really dig to the center of a mountain. Then it just collapses on you and it feels like everything came in and it didn't do anything. So what I did was I started taking off snow from the top and knocking it over to get to a level where I can reach it well, and then scoop that up, put it to the side of the road. Then knock a little bit more off and scoop it to the side. Knock a little bit off, scoop it to the side. Now once I get it to a manageable height, I can just start taking from the surface a little bit, scraping some off the top and throwing it out. So then I went a little bit from the top, bring it down, then come in a little bit forward, bring it down a little more, forward, and I kept doing this until I got through the whole thing, right? Sometimes you just have to start. Just pick any edge, pick any part of it that makes sense, and just start going for it. You don't have to come up with like a 10-step solutions on how to clear this problem. Not just a general plan is fine that you think is able to handle the situation. So next, after you made the plan, stick to the plan, right? That's to say, like, sometimes we make a plan and then we're trying to, well, can I really do this better? I mean, there's always like a million different ways of doing things, and there's almost always a better way of doing things. So that isn't really the problem. The problem really becomes is sometimes there's too many answers, or you think there's something better out there, and there might be, but the time you waste chasing it, what ends up happening? You wasted your time. You could have already got with a lesser plan. You could have already gotten it done if we would have just done it, versus getting all this. Well, how can I go about this? What's the best way? Let me sleep on it. I can do something different. It's like if the problem can be handled by something simple, just go with the simple. You don't have to complicate it. You'll end up wasting more time. And then after you made a pretty decent plan, a good plan that you think will work, just go for it, right? And I wanted to get a quote, and I completely forgot. Well, anyways, I remember the quote slightly, and it's from a gentleman called General George S. Patton, and he ended up saying, "A good plan violently executed today is better than a perfect plan next week," right? Just pick a good plan and just go for it, right? Just go for it, and you'll probably be more successful than somebody that's planning for ages and then never does anything, and they get to the end of their life and die and never even tried, right? So sometimes you got a problem, just start where you're at with what you got. What's the best plan you can do with what this is? And I see I'm kind of going long on time here, so I'm going to start wrapping this up, right? After I'm done, after you're done with the problem that you think you had or that reassess the situation, reassess the problem. Did I fix what I intended to fix? Is there more that I got to do? Did I miss something along the way that's going to impede me from going forward? Once it's done, okay, perfect. Is it solved? Okay, great. Did you miss anything? It looks good. Drive is clear. Did I make a new problem while I was fixing this one? Sometimes as you're desperate or you're moving along, you accidentally mess something else up. You accidentally created something. I moved the snow from the driveway, but I put it somewhere wrong, right? In this case, I put it where I was supposed to. But, if you have a problem, did I create a different problem trying to fix one problem? No, everything's good? Perfect. Now, the last step is plan for next time. So you have to ask yourself, and you have to be honest, right? Everything's about honesty, transparency, even to yourself. Will this problem happen again? It's Wisconsin. It's going to snow. Can it be prevented? No. In your case, do you have financial problems? Are you going to mess up in the future? Everybody thinks no. Well, there'll be a time where maybe you really want something, you got to buy it. Maybe a car broke down and the money you finally saved, you had to use it, right? Sometimes it's not even all about you making a mistake. Sometimes unexpected problems occur, like ended up driving over two giant screws on a construction site or near construction, and had to get all my tires replaced. I blew 2 tires, and they said that it would be better to replace them at this point because they were worn enough that it's going to unbalance the car. So then that took up a bunch of my money, right? Tires are expensive. And so what happens if, things like that happen, right? So can this be prevented? Well, it seems like it can't in this case, right? So then the question becomes, what are you going to do about it? And so I leave you with this funny little testimony with the same situation, right? So I've decided, because this has been horrible, and I gotta, my driveway's a little bit long. It gets kind of hard. I'm just gonna buy a snowblower, right? Which I should have done a long time ago, but I didn't. So what is this? I'm planning. I know that I can't prevent the problem. It's always gonna snow in Wisconsin. It's gonna probably snow again. In fact, we're gonna have if you didn't hear, we're gonna have snow this Thursday, if I'm not mistaken. We're having an Arctic blast this weekend. It's gonna be really cold. So what happens? Now my snowblower that I bought isn't gonna be here until next week, so it's useless for this snowstorm that's coming, or this whatever little snow is coming. But for the future, I'm better able to handle it. It takes me less time, less effort, less mental stress. When I have the problem, it doesn't feel like a big problem anymore. It's just, oh, okay, there's snow. Let me just take a few minutes and do this versus 2 hours, 3 hours trying to shovel, right? So if you have a problem, set yourself up for success. You know it's going to happen again, right? You don't know when, but you know it's going to happen again at some point. What can you do? Especially if it's something that happens frequently, what can you do if you know it's coming, right? If it's something that happens like pretty much never, like once in your lifetime, twice in your life, okay, you're not going to try to prevent that. Like, what are you going to do about that? But if it's something that happens on a regular basis, sure, please go ahead. Sometimes an investment feels like it's painful to your wallet, but what's more painful? Paying for, in my case, right? Paying a couple $100 for the snowblower that I'm buying, or do I want to spend 3 hours shoveling every single time it snows for the rest of my life, right? Where I can do it in like 15, 20 minutes with a snowblower. So 3 hours every single time, right? How much is my time worth? With my family, I could be doing something with my family. I could just be relaxing, just be sitting on the couch, whatever it is, right? What do you want from life? And is that worth more than a couple of bucks to you? Or the couple of bucks worth more than your life? It's really what it comes down to, and you're planning and you're investing for your future. And so, quick testimony, and I'll cut it off. So I got like 3 minutes, but I'll take less than that. So what ends up happening is, in the middle of my shoveling, a thought came to me. My neighbor next door hadn't shoveled the snow at all on the sidewalk, and there's in my neighborhood several people like to walk their dog and you go on the sidewalk. You don't really want to go on the street because it was kind of slushy and kind of dangerous. So everybody else had shoveled already except for this neighbor. And a thought came to me, I should just shovel the snow, right? And I'm like, well, and I know that as soon as a thought like that comes into my mind, I have to do it. I know it's God when it's something good that doesn't really, and usually it's something that I'm able to do in my power, right? It's not like it's a crazy thought that's way out of my league, which that can be God too. But anyways, it's a separate conversation. So I'm gonna go, okay, oh man, I don't even want to shovel that, but I think it's God. I'm gonna do it. It's the right thing to do. Anyways, I even stopped to take a coffee break because I was getting cold shoveling, and the timing of God is impeccable. It's unbelievable. I can't even believe it, right? And so I stopped for coffee, and actually, I'm glad I stopped for coffee. It actually helped me out, and I don't know if God probably had that planned as well, right? For my benefit, actually. What ended up happening was I took a break, went back to shoveling, then I shoveled that sidewalk, and sure enough, the instant that I got back to my driveway that I had just finished clearing out the neighbor's sidewalk, what happened? A woman came by, and it was an elderly woman who was walking, which her elderly dog, even the dog was, you could see it had a lot of white hairs. It was already getting pretty old, and God did that. If I would have done it earlier, it would have been a blessing to that woman, but it wouldn't have been any help to me. But the fact that everything happened at exactly the time that it happened, I was able to see that it was God talking to me because he made a way for that woman to get across. And you don't know in the future, once you solve your problem, you will then put yourself in a position to help other people, and you will make a way for other people in the same area that you were hurting, right? Because it sucked. I didn't want to be stuck in my house. And then what about this old lady? What if she would have fallen and injured herself, right? And the neighbor didn't do anything about it. So you don't know if your problem right now is making you hurt, but then it's going to open your eyes. It's going to put you in a position where then you're able to make a way for other people. So I wanted to leave you with that, and I thank you for taking the time, and I really hope that God blessed you with this, right? That you'll take this and put it to use. It's a great time. The world's in need of a lot of people to do good things, right? All you hear is bad news everywhere, but guess what? You can be the good news. Somebody can talk about what you did. You can be the light or the answer to somebody's prayer in your problems, right? So you can either be broken by your problems, or you can adapt and learn and become the solution to that same problem for other people. The choice is really up to you. God's there to give you answers. He's always speaking. He'll talk to you in any way that he wants to speak. If you're willing to listen and you have an ear to hear and an eyes to see, the answers are there. Now, are you willing to take up the responsibility of helping yourself and then helping others? Or are you going to keep complaining that life's been unfair and that you didn't deserve these things to happen to you? Did I deserve that? Like I said, talking about petty problems, but but in reality, this applies to any area of your life. So I hope this has been a blessing. I thank you. If you have any questions, please comment down below, and we'll get back to you. If you guys need prayer, you can always, submit your prayer request in a private message and the pastors will pray for you. So once again, I thank you. God bless you, and thank you for taking the time to listen into this short reflection. Thank you.